Why is he taking the decision now? Morning to you.
Oh, because it was becoming impossible, wasn't it? I mean, the debate was bad enough. They'd managed to quell that. But of course, they couldn't hide him in a bunker when it came to the NATO summit. And, calling Zelensky Putin, calling Kamala Harris Trump, and it's just getting worse and worse, barely able to walk up a flight of steps into an aeroplane. And look, they've been covering up for this guy for years. He's not been up to the job for years. Goodness knows why Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, who met with him, said everything was fine. I guess he was just being nice. And the truth of it is that an incompetent man who, is sadly past his sell-by date, and I wouldn't wish dementia or Parkinson's on anybody, I really wouldn't. But, the world's become a much more dangerous place. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was a catastrophe. Crime in American cities is out of control. And what's really happened here, Nick, is they know they've lost the presidential election. Trump now looks to be pretty unstoppable. But self-interest has started to kick in. People are worried about their seats in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, and they think by getting a different candidate, a few of them might be able to save themselves. And that's why it happened now.
And yet, Mr. Farage, the money is pouring in $50 million since last night, coming in for Harris. There are people out there who believe this could change the whole dynamic, the whole outcome of the election.
Well, I mean, look, in America, you get big corporations give money to both sides. I mean, it's, forget lobbying in Westminster. Go and have a look at what happens in Washington, D.C. And everybody wants influence and everybody wants the ear of the president, and they're prepared to pay very, very large sums of money to do that. Look, there's no evidence.
Interesting you would use... Sorry, Nigel.
There's no evidence that Harris has any particular appeal. She had a go herself at running for the presidential nomination. She dropped out before the New Hampshire primary, which is very early in the process. She, as vice president, was put in charge of the border, didn't even bother to visit for a couple of years. And I have to say, I think Donald Trump will be delighted that she's the opponent, because I cannot see, I mean, there is a possibility that at their convention in a few weeks' time, there's a big open fight and somebody else comes through. But I cannot see the Democrat Party getting rid of a black African woman. I just cannot see it.
It's interesting you use the expression getting the ear of the president, because, of course, you've just been at the National Republican Convention in Milwaukee. What did you learn about the mood of the Republican Party? What did you learn about the position of Donald Trump post, of course, that attempt on his life?
Well, first things first. I mean, a lot of veterans I met who'd been to 8 or 9 conventions said it was the best one they'd ever been to. It was only my second, because the 2021 were COVID was cancelled. Very bullish, very upbeat, very buoyant, a feeling that they are going to win, and perhaps win quite big when it comes to the system the Americans have with the Electoral College votes. As for the Trumps, all I can tell you is that the Trump family are incandescent with rage at what happened in Pennsylvania, how a man with a rifle can get onto a roof 125 yards away from Donald Trump, a clear, open roof. The warnings go up from the crowd, from the police, and yet it takes Secret Service so long to act. No, the family were both upset and very, very angry indeed.
What did the former president say to you, Nigel Farage?
He's just, I mean, I don't think people like Donald Trump and I believe in miracles, but maybe now we do. When you look at the 3D image of the bullet on its way and he turns his head, he's had a miraculous, absolutely miraculous escape. He certainly believes that there's some higher order that helped him get through that. And I mean, who wouldn't in those circumstances? No, I mean, look, he's obviously reflective after what's happened. I had a plane crash myself that I survived, and you are reflective after things like this. But I think in a funny sort of way, it makes Trump even more determined to win, and not just win the presidency, but win both houses as well.
Finally, it was to be a campaign where he was the younger and certainly the fitter and more able of two rather older men. Now he's got a young, as you quite rightly say, mixed-race ethnic woman against him. What is the dynamic of that?
Well, J.D. Vance is the American dream. I mean, growing up in abject poverty, drug addiction, fatherless home, and the guy joins the Marines and does well, goes to law school, goes into private equity. I mean, JD Vance is a huge success story. Kind of, here you'd call it working class conservatives, just that there aren't any anymore. I really think that Vance is interesting. And what Trump has said is, look, I won't be here forever. Here is the succession. And it's somebody with views that are similar to his, somebody with a great deal of vigor. I've known Vance for over a decade, and he's a very, very bright, impressive man.
Grateful for your time this morning. Thank you. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK and, of course, Reform MP in Clacton, 727. Who's first on the line? Chris in Richmond. Have they left it too little, or too late at least, do you think, the Democrats? Good morning.
Yes, they probably have, but, it is what it is now, unfortunately. But, I mean, the idea that Kamala Harris should have kind of told everyone in the world that her boss wasn't fit for the job, it's not really realistic. That would be like one of your producers saying, people saying, Nick's got a problem with his health. Are they going to turn around and say, well, no, but it wouldn't. It's just, you've got to be realistic.
You don't have to be a fearsome advocate, do you? You just don't take the call.
Well, yeah.
That's what you do, isn't it? I mean, let's say I'm working for an utterly incompetent boss. Well,
yeah.
No, and people say, what's he like? I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Can I call you back? What I don't do is go out and ferociously advocate on his or her behalf.
Well, I mean, I used to tweak it. And two other points I want to say. I didn't hear you ask Nigel Farage why on earth he wasn't in the House of Parliament on his first week in the job when he's supposed to be an MP representing Clacton, number one. And JD Vance, a popular guy that, by the way, said that he didn't care about what happens to Ukraine.
Well, again, of course, I hear what you say, but he is. If you look at the way Mr. Farage is told it, it is the American dream, though, isn't it? Look where the man is now. He is possibly looking at being the Vice President of the United States.
But that should scare every one of us. But again, why was Nigel Farage not doing his job that we elected him to do less than 4 weeks ago and being in the House of Commons with only 600 people? His job is not to be Donald Trump's sort of poodle.
Because he wanted to attend the convention, the Republican Party convention. It's quite an important global matter. He's allowed to do that.
But Nick, if that had been a Labour MP, you'd have been saying what's going on against the Democrats.
No, not a Labour MP. If it had been a Labour Prime Minister, yeah, I can see it. But someone who is an MP, I think they are allowed occasionally to go other places should they so desire. And indeed, I think you're probably well aware, Chris, because you're a well-educated man, they go on these fact-finding missions all the time. Anybody who's up for Mauritius? Yeah, I'll go there. Anybody want to go to Moldova? I think I've got something on with the kids, actually. Can't make that one. But let me know about the Seychelles.